Good morning, party people. This is Lorenzo, and you're watching episode 31. Yeah, 31 of Eeloo and Tylo, where today we're going to Duna because logic. I've taken the liberty to grab the tiny Icelander and set up a maneuver node for it. That this has been achieved, and we are blasting off with 825 meters per second towards Duna. Now, remember from the previous episode, this thing is in a retrograde orbit around Kerbin. Look at that. Well, you can't really see that. Look at that, it appears to be going the wrong way, but fortunately that doesn't matter because orbits are circular, and if you pick the right side to burn, you will go wherever you want. This has a happy coincidence, which I hadn't realized before. If you're in a retrograde orbit around Kerbin and you're trying to go higher in the solar system, that is Duna, Jewel, Eeloo, Dres, these bodies, then you get to do your burn in the sunlight. Because that is always the same. If you're in a prograde orbit, you will always be on the dark side of Kerbin doing your boosting burns. Knowing this, if you want to go down in the solar system, say to Eve, Moho, the sun itself, you want to be in a prograde orbit if you want your burn to happen in the sunlight. This is a little quirk of orbital mechanics that I hadn't quite identified before, so that's fairly nice. And missions that are not heavily delta V restricted, I might actually use this because burns in the sunlight are of course more visually appealing than burns that are not in the sunlight. Okay, so we are slated for a Duna encounter. Oh, now we're not anymore. We were slated for a Duna encounter in about 300 days. I'm going to turn the ship around and see if I can get that encounter back. And Duna, I could tweak it so that we're immediately meeting Ike, which I actually tried, but then I failed at that. So I'm gonna try and do that again somewhat closer. Let's see, let's try and do, well, we're at 1 degree inclination. Let's try a maneuver node here, and we can add an alarm for that. Tiny Ike, final correction. Boom, 260 days from now. Now, of course, we have to do the same trick with the actual Duna lander. This one can spin its merry way towards Duna for now. This is plenty of delta V, as it turns out. Let's go past the space center. I'm gonna do the plotting and the trajectory finagling off screen and show you the burn just as this one. Then we're going to do time warping until our research finishes. We're going to build an Eve probe, and we're going to probably launch that one as well. Tiny Red Ike of course being Duna itself, because logic. This ship will look very familiar because it's almost the same one as the Icelander, just the... Oh dear, look at that. Something has changed, I forgot to tell you. Kerbin is now a white hole. No, what has actually changed is that KSP patch 1.0.3 has hit and not all the mods are compatible. And apparently if I switch to different ships and stuff, that sort of helps. Or just wait, I don't know. I thought all the mods were compatible, but it turns out they may not be. The simulation isn't going either. Let's try and visit the space center. I did make a backup of the save state, so if all things explode, we can probably roll back and, you know, be happy. But I think everything should work perfectly fine, although obviously they're not. Tiny Red Ike. Let's fly that. Come on, please load in Kerbin, not the white hole. Doesn't look promising. Now there is a black thing as well. Is that a bit of Duna? Alright, I'm gonna try restarting the game. Alright, you can't see it, but the planet is back, and everything has been fixed. I spent an hour trawling the internets, and apparently what happened in KSP 1.0.3 is some changes happened to the heat mechanics and the heat shields, and somehow I had to dive into the persistent.sfs file to tweak some number about the heat shield, and now it all works. Another thing I did when I was down there was increase the patched conic limits, so now I can do these kind of things, where by the way, default setting, you only get like 3 sphere of influence changes, so after this your trajectory wouldn't be drawn. I've now increased that to 5, which led to this course plan for getting to Duna with a lunar slingshot. Actually, this is a braking slingshot, I think. We're gonna pass in front of the moon. Yeah, this is just punching through. Actually, is this way in here, amateur orbital mechanicists? Does this actually help or not? And anyway, we're gonna do it like this because it's in the way. But what ends up happening is that we get to Duna right quick. We get there in like 169 days rather than 300 days. And that does cost me about 200 more meters per second. Um, and I'm not sure if I'm actually getting something from the moon here or whether I'm actually being slowed down by it. I think I'm going to be slowed down by it because I'm passing in front of it. But I don't know. We will. I would welcome your learned opinion on the matter. Anyway, we're going to now do that burn. And then we're probably going to be in trouble with how mad quick this one will get there. Also, I think I didn't do. Oh, I did make a maneuver note for the final correction to Tiny Ike, but that happens after all these things get to Tylo and stuff. So that's all cool things are gonna happen at once. We've been waiting for like 3 years, and then everything happens. A little bit like real life. I mean, we had the Ceres flyby, and well, no, we had the Ceres orbit and the mystery bright spots. We're gonna get the Pluto flyby in a few weeks, and then we'll have decades of nothing because these missions were en route for something like 10 years, and we haven't launched any interesting long-term missions since. I'm probably forgetting some obscure mission now, but nothing of the sort like, oh my god, we're going to a planet that no one's ever been before. So we haven't launched any of that, so it will be at least the mission duration of a new one until we're gonna see something. I mean, that shit stands true. So it's gonna be a while, is what I'm saying. Enjoy it while it lasts. We are witnessing the remnants of days gone by when people were launching space missions. That's true, Glem. But anyway, doesn't really matter in the end. We are still living on Earth, playing space games, and they at least will continue to get more sophisticated. That's what I hope. Speaking of more sophisticated gamery, I wanted to purchase an Oculus Rift. I was working under the assumption that it was going to be offered for pre-purchase at the last E3. I saw the presentation and now I don't want one anymore. I mean, they showed you sitting in a room, a virtual reality room, staring at a virtual reality 2D big TV. I mean, I have one of those in real life. No, I want more convincing stuff. I'm not psyched for VR anymore. I'm still hopeful, but I just don't believe they'll be able to make it work. The vision isn't there. Then again, these were partnered presentations. Maybe someone else will be able to make it work. Anyway, yay, let's see whether we have our wonderful trajectory. Not in the least. I don't know why not, but it didn't quite work. Let's see if we can fix it. Did we overshoot? Was the burn just badly timed? What happened? Or are we still actually secretly en route for a encounter closer? Because, you know, we could now break and make it here, but... Or did we just not go fast enough? But I'm fairly sure the encounter was over there. But now the game doesn't want to recognize that anymore. Or something. I'm fairly confident that we did the burn properly, at least. There isn't a lot of inclination difference. What would happen if I start tweaking maneuvers at this end? Yes, we got something. Say, do I need to do a course correction? Because I kind of want it. I kind of want that quick intercept. What do I need to do to get there? And why is it apparently just not happening? See? I mean, yeah, we can expend like 1,000,000 more meters per second, but that of course won't fix the problem. What the hell? Do we need just a little bit of tweaking maybe? Yes. Just a little bit of tweaking. That's what we need. 140 meters per second. There's still no explanation as to why that happens. I'm now using up the craft's RCS system to turn because apparently these maneuvers are sensitive. Of course, it does make sense that the sensitivity is a bit higher because we are using a lunar slingshot now. There is an opportunity for magnifying errors. Yeah, 140 meters per second is actually reasonable for a minute or two burn close to the planet. Anyway, let's fix it. Apparently these high-speed maneuvers, they carry more risk of error. Anyway, but we have done it. Wonderful. We will peg the descending node as a final correction burn moment. So I find you get the best control at these nodes. Final, let's just call it the FC burn. Wonderful. Boom. And we're en route. Let us now visit multiple spheres of influence rapidly in succession. Because I feel it would be nice to chaperone this ship on its way out. See if everything holds up. Then, of course, we have done this launch. We can scrap that. Next event will be the aerodynamics completion, which will mean that we can. Are we now in? No, we are. It's slowed down to like 3-minute wait. That means we can start constructing the Eve mission. Cool. Let's time warp to that sphere of influence. Let's keep that at 50. Then we can construct the Eve mission, and oh, now we're gonna warp to the edge of Kerbin space. Of course, the encounter still exists. That's good. Then we're gonna construct the Eve mission, is what I was saying, and we can launch it. Yeah, that all happens before any of these probes arrive. Whoa, and then yeah, I think we're gonna launch the Eve thing, and then next episode we're gonna basically have everything arrive. Cool, and I think that Eve thing will arrive properly soon as well, because Eve is down instead of up relative to the sun. Cool, time for some time warping. 62 days until the technology. Yeah. And we are almost entering our 4th year in this marvelous space program. And this is going to be an eventful year with many arrivals, many interesting things to do. Yes, yes, yes. By the way, if it wasn't clear, the advanced aerodynamics will give us, the notice here, will give us larger aero shells, which will allow, what else will it give us? Clampatron, docking ports, prop fan, more. Oh, what? This will give us propellers or something. which might work on Eve. I don't know. Anyway, it will give us a bigger aeroshell, which will allow us to launch a plane through space, or well, more accurately through the atmosphere, because launching planes through the atmosphere in a non-plane configuration is really difficult. And then I can launch a glider probe to Eve, which is what I want. I have already designed this, and its function and view will be a surprise unless you watched on Steam when I tested it, which I did. I tested it on Earth, by the way, on Kerbin. So I didn't completely test it on Eve because, of course, we need to get a probe to Eve before we can unlock simulation there. I called it Adam. You will be able to see it here. Yeah, that's enough of a sneak preview. Let's build it. It's only 77,000, so it's not too expensive. And hopefully it will give us many gleeful moments where the cash and science are streaming in. Alright, now the next thing is actually our backup probe getting to Jool, where we need to set a new alarm for its encounter with Ike, and we may be able to do some science. Whoa, look at it. We are actually almost there. Let's warp to the sphere of influence. We only have 2 kilometers per second relative to the sun remaining. I hope the solar panels still perform somewhat. I think they do. Come on, hide that build list. Yeah, there's nothing here to tell you that it's gonna happen, but in 1 second the sphere of influence, actually no, in 3 minutes the gravity of Jool is gonna dominate it. Is there a wall? Is there a wall? No, there's not a wall. There is a pop-up though. It happened now. It still didn't happen. There is still 50 seconds to go. My momentous moments are being ruined all around. New simulation body unlocked. Jool. Wonderful. Alright, as long as this probe is functioning, let's do all the science it can. Observe mystery goo. High over Jool. Transmit that stuff. Do we want to do that? Yeah, there will be more probes. We just want to get all the science when we can. Alright, let's actually look at Jool. I don't think... Oh, we're getting a Vol periapsis? Let's see. I know this is destined for Tylo, obviously. We're getting a Tylo periapsis and a Vol periapsis this way? Wonderful. Let's see if we can abuse that to... I mean, we want to establish, of course, a Tylo orbit. But doing it this way... we will get a Tylo orbit. And then straight back into a... we'll get a Tylo flyby, a Vol flyby, and then straight back into a Tylo orbit. This will take 800 meters per second. I reckon we don't have that much. Actually, we may. How much does a straight up insertion take? Let's see. A straight up insertion takes 1800 meters per second, which is far more. Of course, after this Vol flyby, we're not quite done yet, but this Tylo orbit, is this still set as a target? This Tylo orbit that we're gonna end up with, it sure looks a lot more close than it did otherwise. Let's see, where is this now? This is actually after Vol a bit. If I want to burn it... no, this is great. Let's see, surely this is almost on orbit already. Let's see. This is now 300. This is now in total 1200. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. We want our Tylo periapsis to be as close to Tylo as possible for the most efficiency. Yeah, this is a great trajectory. I'm loving the increased patched conics now. Wow. Alright, save these maneuver nodes. And my god, are there a lot of periapses on the screen now. Okay, we will encounter Tylo first in 57 days. That's after everything that happens here. I mean, let's just add that to the alarm clock. First to Tylo. Man, everything is gonna go inside so badly. Alright, back to the space center. Time warping to the completion of Adam. Heavy Lander is also getting to Tylo, I think this one, yeah. That one got there quick. That like coincided with the other one. That's nice. Ooh, we got science from something. I don't know what. Something gave us science. That's great. Alright, the Adam has been completed. Let's see about launching that. It can linger in orbit. Actually, can it? Yes, it can. Rolling it out. And time warping to completion. Now that mission will go down into the solar gravity well, which means we want to launch it prograde so we can do our injection burn in the sunlight. Yes, that makes some kind of sense. And of course we also... Oh no, I don't want to do time warping now. I want to go to the ship and then time warp until dawn, because otherwise the launch pad reconditioning gets in the way of the actual launch, I think. Right. Time warping. Here we have the magnificent Adam, 4 boosters and a center core of the built of the trusty twin bore engine. Come on, son. There you are. Alright, now this ship has the somewhat serious, slightly moderately easy design flaw of being able to go too fast too quickly. So we're going to do full throttle and launching it off that pad. Now I'm going to tilt it a little bit just so it heads in the right direction. Of course we have solid boosters, so our throttling capacity is limited, which means I'm going to do it early. I'm going to do it now. I'm throttled at 2/3 of maximum capacity. My steering efforts haven't really done anything. I'm going to throttle to a little under half, because we're getting frighteningly close to that Mach 1 barrier, at which point the transition forces, I'm not sure if that's the proper word for it, but the air force rules of aerodynamics, they get particularly nasty at around the Mach 1 threshold, which we're at there now. I couldn't throttle back enough, but we seem to have passed through without too much incident. Let me tell you, that has been different on occasion. Alright, the boosters have about burned out. Let's ditch them. A little bit of throttle, full throttle, and there we go. Boosters away. Let's rejigger the staging so that we can get rid of the aeroshell once we're a little bit higher up, let's say like 28-30 kilometers. We can start our pitch over, and so far the launch is proceeding pretty well. Hardly any things to worry about. Yeah, let's get rid of that aeroshell. Let's drop engine thrust just to be sure. There it goes, and let's resume air thrust. Oh yeah, I forgot there was a big honking heat shield on top there. I hope that doesn't provide too much drag now. It will, but I think the rocket will be able to overpower it because, well, we're high up in the atmosphere and we've got a big, powerful rocket. This gives me time to talk about the changes in heat model. In version 1.0.3, changes were made. I have only read them in the file, I haven't got any actual experience with them, but there is now a separation between a part's internal temperature and its skin temperature. And the skin temperature will be used for determining how much heat it can get rid of by radiation, and its internal temperature will be more of some more like a heat bank, a battery. You cannot easily get rid of that, but it is there. And parts conduct their skin temperatures to one another, but also their internal temperatures, and they are used for different things like solar panel efficiency. The upshot of which appears to be that this stage is now cooler than it was before, so yay. Let's finish our orbital insertion burn, shall we? Now, the Eve window I chose, if memory serves, requires a delta V application of about 3 kilometers per second. This is also the reason why this stage is possibly appearing a little bit larger than it absolutely would have to be, because the most efficient trajectory to Eve is about 1 kilometer per second, but we're in the business of speed. Let me now show you the money, the probe, the thing, the adventure that will go to Eve. It's this wing-shaped probe. It has solar panels, it has wings for steering, it has a big honking heat shield to protect it during entry, and it has rover wheels upon which it can land. It is not quite sure whether it will survive that. They are quite flimsy, and, well, if you drop the probe on them too hard, it will die. Then again, Eve's atmosphere is really thick and it does pack a single parachute, and it is a wing, so they are included just to make use of the eventuality that Eve's atmosphere may be thick enough to drop safely through it. It has 4 control surfaces, which should give it a modicum of control. I think it will be a blast flying this thing through that soupy atmosphere of Eve. Alright, let's cut thrust and establish orbit at apoapsis, and then we can wait until the proper planetary alignment occurs for a NITO insertion. NITO insertion being pro rocket speak for everything nominal. Thank you very much, bye bye. Right on. Lighting the engine, doing this final burn. This will be the last burn of the episode. Next episode we have to look forward to the actual insertion of this thing to Eve. I will abbreviate that as much as possible. And some very exciting things. We will get the first look at Tylo. I think this heavy lander will actually get into the Jules sphere of influence, but it means we get to attempt a landing on Tylo in the real near future. We'll also have some final correction burns for Tiny Red Ike, which is going to land on Duna. Now the Duna system isn't that big, so this one will probably get there that episode as well. And more probes. So we might definitely see some landings next episode, or at least crashes. But in doing so, they will unlock the simulation mode for these celestial bodies, allowing us to engineer proper landers, which we can then put on big rockets. I mean, what we're sending now is basically just a best guess. So yeah, finally the series is getting up to speed a little bit. We're doing exciting things. I think that will be awesome, and I hope to see you next episode. Thanks for watching so far. I am Lorenzo. See you on the other side. Goodbye.